What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson, I'm your host. Monday Night Football Week 16 recap. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Chargers clinching a playoff spot for the first time with Justin Herbert as their quarterback, which seems, I don't know, like malpractice, but they finally made it, winning 20-3 against the Colts on Monday night, the day after Christmas. Congratulations to me for finally winning my home league fantasy football title for the first time in like 5 years, maybe longer. I don't care what you think, Wilson. Ryan Wilson, John Breech joining me. I won, and I'm happy about it.
Breech, it's the day after baby Jesus' birthday, and once again, Brinson's making this about him. I think the true hero is Brandon Staley, who now no longer has to hear slander from Brinson and sometimes you about how Sean Payton's going to take his job because he's going to the playoffs.
I think the true winner is the Chargers for getting Brinson off their bandwagon. They got rid of the dead weight, and now they're in the playoffs. So that's not a coincidence. Good job, Chargers.
Played the long game and won.
I'm happy to be the let's dive in and talk about the AFC playoff picture first and foremost. So now we have 3 seeds at the top we have 3 teams that have clinched their playoff berth. I'm probably doing this wrong. The top 2 teams in the AFC, the Bills and the Chiefs, have clinched a playoff berth and their division. We also have the Chargers, who have clinched a playoff berth, and then the Bengals and the Ravens have clinched a playoff berth. So we have 2 spots remaining in the AFC. Currently, Jacksonville resides in the 4 spot there. They are battling Tennessee in a game in Week 18 that will determine who gets to go to the playoffs. Week 17 does not matter for either team. The Dolphins at 8-7 are currently holding the final wild card spot in the AFC, with the Patriots at 7-8, the Jets at 7-8, and I guess technically are we sure the Titans and the Jaguars can't sneak in as a wild card?
No.
And then the Steelers also is a 7-8 team there. The only path would be as the division winner, because you'd get to.
I mean, it's mathematically possible. It's just highly unlikely.
Just not happening.
Yeah. So, what do we think about? I for one, am glad the Chargers are in the playoffs. I think while they sometimes fall short of what you want them to do in certain spots, they also manage to do some Keenan Allen when they have Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler, and their full complement of weapons, and they're actually dialing it up. They are a fun, explosive team to watch. Could have put up more points, but the defense did a great job against the Colts. This is a team that God. How much damage can the Chargers do in the playoffs, Wilson, as the biggest Brandon Staley advocate on this podcast?
Well, I think part of the issue, Justin Herbert was sacked 4 times tonight, and that goes back to the injuries along the offensive line. So you have to sort of take that thing together and hope it stays. And Justin Herbert has been sort of inconsistent, but they're still finding ways to win, which is very un-Chargers-like over the course of their history in games they should have won. And they'll be getting Khalil Mack and Mr. Bosa back. So those are good signs. And I think you just have to keep
Khalil Mack played tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bosa, you get back.
And Derwin James was ejected, but he'll be back too.
And Keenan Allen's healthy, fingers crossed. Mike Williams is healthy, fingers crossed. Josh Palmer's been playing well in their stead for most of the season. So if those guys are ready to go, and Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa's back, I always get them mixed up. Joey Bosa's back, then you have something. And Nick Foles didn't have a chance, and he got sacked 7 times. But look, if you guys can talk yourselves into the Buccaneers, I can certainly talk myself into the Chargers winning their first round game and making some noise in the second round, even if they happen to go out there in the fourth quarter drive that their team happens to pull off Breech.
The Chargers are such a bipolar team, and they can be dysfunctional at times, or they can be awesome at times. We're talking about a team that lost by 4 touchdowns to Jacksonville earlier in the season. So maybe they get the 5 seed and lose to Jacksonville, but maybe they get the 6 seed and beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. This team is literally capable of anything. If you found out tomorrow they lost 31-10 in the first round of the playoffs, you'd be like, oh, they probably played the Chiefs, or they probably played the Bills. But you found they won 31-10, you'd be like, oh, Justin Herbert caught fire, and Keenan Allen had a huge game, and Mike Williams tore things up. So it's just they're impossible to predict. I could see them getting to the Super Bowl as long as I don't Charger things up. But I could also see them losing in the wild card round.
Do you feel better or worse about the Chargers compared to the Buccaneers?
Oh, I feel much better about the Chargers. The Chargers have legitimate weapons. Their defense isn't great, but they have playmakers on defense that can, force turnovers, come up with big sacks. So, yeah, I'd feel a lot better about the Chargers' chances of winning the Super Bowl versus the Buccaneers.
Well, and I think one of the things too with the Chargers, and we were sort of talking about this in Slack before, but so they are now 1 game back of Baltimore. They have a better conference record at 7-4 versus 6-4. The Ravens still have to play the Steelers at home and then at the Bengals, and the Chargers get a much friendlier schedule, I believe, right?
Rams and Broncos.
Rams and Broncos, right. Like the Chargers should finish 8-4 in the division, and it stands to reason that the Ravens could quite easily finish if they were 1-1, they would be 8-5, which is, I guess, uneven. Oh no, they'd be 7-5, excuse me. And if that happens, then the Chargers have the tiebreak, and they would be the 5 seed. And the difference between the 5 seed and the 6 seed in the AFC, and this is my larger point, is enormous because you will play either the Jaguars or the Titans. Now, don't get me wrong, a team like the Chargers, who's been bad against the run most of the year and most of Brandon Staley's tenure there, doesn't want to see Derrick Henry, but it seems fairly unlikely that Ryan Tannehill could be back, although we talked about it on Sunday night. Maybe he does return. And then the Jaguars, they've been hot, but you're talking about Trevor Lawrence's first appearance in the playoffs. So Justin Herbert, same thing. I just think you would so much rather be the 5 seed and play that 4 seed coming into the AFC South than be the 6 seed and play one of Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Kansas City. Like that's a no-brainer for anybody, right?
Oh, yeah. And not even just from a competitive standpoint, would you rather be playing Jacksonville or Tennessee versus Buffalo, Kansas City, or Cincinnati? But would you rather be playing at Buffalo in the middle of January in the wild card round or at Jacksonville in the middle of January in the wild card round, or even Nashville? You know, Nashville and Jacksonville aren't going to get as cold as Buffalo or Cincinnati might. So just from a weather standpoint, I want that 5 seed if I'm the Chargers. And you feel like if they win out, they have a really good shot of getting it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's not even controversial what Brinson's saying, so I don't really have anything other to comment on that.
It wasn't a hot take. I think that's
making sense.
Sort of underrated in the sense of like,
that's our Christmas present. You made sense today. Thank you.
Thanks, Brinson.
Yeah, I think that's right. Absolutely. And I'm sure that John Harbaugh and what's Lamar Jackson's prognosis for this week or next? Do we know?
Sure. It sounds like he'll be back by week 18, maybe.
Well, they need to rush his ass back in week 17.
Although, if you're the Chargers, you're thinking, man, what if we're stuck? We can either say you get to week 18, and like if you lose, you play a Chiefs team you lost to twice, 3-point losses, or if you win, you get the 5 seed, and you have to play a Jacksonville team that you lost to by 4 touchdowns.
That's
true. Like that's a weird.
No,
you get the 5 seed. You play right, Jacksonville, but.
Yeah, you definitely don't sit everybody and be like, give us the Chiefs, like bring it on.
It's like bring on Alabama. We want Bama.
We want Bama. Yes. No one has ever chanted we want Bama and had it end up well for them. So if the Chargers get the 5 seed and they beat whoever comes out of the AFC South, which is, I think they would probably be favored against that AFC South team.
I think in Jacksonville it might be close. They might be like +1.
Yeah, maybe it's a pick 'em. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm giving you the wins over Wilson.
The 5 seed is likely then going to play, if you assume that Buffalo and Cincinnati hold serve and KC is the 1 seed, just under this hypothetical, you've likely got the Chargers going to Kansas City to play in the divisional round, and then you'd have to travel to either Buffalo or Cincinnati to play in the AFC Championship game. So, and I guess the larger point of that is that it's such a stark contrast from the NFC. That if things fall the way we think they could in the AFC, the path for one of these wildcard teams to make it to the Super Bowl involves going through like Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati, potentially, likely just 2 of them. Whereas in the NFC, it's like, man, I mean, you could end up with a pretty easy path, depending on Jalen Hurts' status and what happens with Philly.
Yeah, I mean, but that's sort of, we got few things right this year. But one of the things that we all agreed on is that the AFC it's much better top to bottom than the NFC, and that's bearing itself out. Even last year,
one of the reasons was that people thought the AFC West was going to be great. It will get 2 teams, but
Even last year, Breech, in retrospect, it didn't feel like a murderer's row, but you beat the Raiders at home. You beat the Titans. The Titans were 12-5, and they were the number 1 seed. And then obviously the Chiefs game is a big win. But at the time, it didn't feel like the possible path that the Chargers would have to face. Is that right? You feel that? Does that sound about right?
Well, I mean, if you look at last year with the Bengals playoff run, you say the Titans, and it doesn't sound like they beat a good team. But that was the number 1 overall seed. That was a team that obviously played well enough during the regular season, even though they didn't have Derrick Henry for a substantial portion of the season. And that was a good Titans team they beat. And so if you're thinking, hey, the Chargers might have to beat the 1, the 2 seed, that's tougher this year, because then you're talking about you have to beat the Bills and the Chiefs, or the Bengals and the Chiefs, or the Bills and the Bengals. So you're going to have to win 2 very, very tough games, most likely, to get.
And that's
to the
what
Super Bowl.
actually, in the Bengals' defense, that's exactly what they did. I did notice that you didn't mention how you cheated and won that Raiders game, but that's a conversation for another time.
What is going on?
As you can see on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6, subscribe, turn on alerts, you'll be notified when we go live. Live after every primetime game for the rest of time. The youngest quarterbacks to start a playoff game in Chargers history. The youngest ever, Phillip Rivers, of course, the greatest quarterback in Chargers history, 25 years, 37 days. Jack Kemp next. Wow. 25 years, 172 days. John Hadel, 25 years, 314 days. And then Drew Brees, 25 years, 359 days. Justin Herbert will break that record at 24 years old when the playoffs begin. He has a chance to be the second greatest Chargers quarterback of all time if everything breaks right for him. That's exciting.
Yeah. Good one.
Look, Herbert's awesome, man. He's just looking back at it. I mean, we'll talk about this game a little bit. My God, he just has a cannon. It does feel like a lot of times they misuse him, to say the least.
I mean, it's weird because, obviously he's good, but if he played like he did tonight in the playoffs, the Chargers lose. I mean, he threw an interception. He had a fumble. You can't turn the ball over twice, especially when you're taking a sack and you go down like that and give the other team the ball at the 20-yard line. Fortunately for the Chargers, the Colts offense.
Of course, they fumbled a punt return too.
Right. But that, the Chargers got lucky on that one. But, the special teams, the offense, they kept trying to give away the game. The defense is like, no, we are getting to the playoffs. We're not charging anything up here. We'll let us destroy Nick Foles. You guys just, get a couple points and we'll win this game. But yeah, like Justin Herbert made some good throws, but it just seemed like the Austin Eckler game, and see how many times I can throw past to Keenan Allen. There wasn't any really wow throws like we've seen from Justin Herbert in the past, and he had the 2 turnovers. So I thought, he played like a B- game.
Let me ask you this, because that's a fair point. I can't even push back against that. But we've talked for weeks now, ever since the Jets game. Josh Allen hasn't been Josh Allen. He's shown glimpses of it. Maybe he's had one game since that Jets game, 6 or 7 weeks ago, whenever that was. Patrick Mahomes a few weeks ago played terribly. I don't remember the game that I don't know if it's a Bengals game or not, but he threw a bunch of interceptions that didn't feel very Patrick Mahomes like. No, it was a Texans game where they were monkeying around, and they should have. It was sort of weird. I think Joe Burrow's probably playing the most consistently of the quarterbacks right now. Trevor Lawrence is clearly playing better down the stretch. Lamar's hurt. We just talked about Justin Herbert, and of course Tua is now in concussion protocol as the quarterback of the 7th seed. So if you rank Justin Herbert on that list, he's probably 4th, maybe 4.5. But the issue is the aura of chargering. Like if he were doing this on the Chiefs, you would feel much better than if you did it on the Chargers.
By the way, Austin Eckler, friend of the podcast, of course, as everyone knows who listens to the podcast. I guess I thought that I wouldn't really box score watching a ton because I was watching with my dad and brother. But to me, it felt like Herbert played better than his final stat line. He didn't have a passing touchdown, did have that interception. Those 2 turnovers are backbreaking. And maybe it's more about the Colts just freaking suck. I mean, Nick Foles got sacked 7 times and threw 3 picks. Like, I don't know that team's any better with Matt Ryan under center. I think it's just the Colts aren't very good. It was like a really good team. Like, I think if that's the Bengals tonight, Joe Burrow beats them like 45-3.
Yeah,
or Mahomes just comes in and just is like, listen, this is not going to be close.
I don't know. I mean, the only quarterback that's playing really consistently right now is Joe Burrow. All the other quarterbacks have had some.
Mahomes has been pretty consistent, I think. Allen's been all right.
Well, the elbow injury for Josh, I think Bills fans will tell you that he hasn't played at the level he played at last year. Patrick Mahomes has had some not duds, but duds by the Patrick Mahomes standard. Joe Burrow feels like he's hit his stride. Trevor Lawrence is playing better. And, as I mentioned, Lamar Jackson's hurt.
Well, to Ryan's point, during the Bills' current 6-game winning streak, Josh Allen's only averaging 216 pass yards per game, which feels low for him. And it does feel like the Bills are kind of tailoring their offensive game plan so that he doesn't have to throw the ball 50 times, because I do think they're at least, 5% concerned about the elbow. We don't want it. We can't have it messed up before the playoffs. And so, you stick to your ground game, and they've been running the ball a lot, and they've done it successfully. And he's a big part of that and their ability to run the ball. And so, and he hasn't had to really get crazy throwing the ball. I think he had a 300-yard game against the Dolphins, but that game kind of turned into a shootout. But other than that, he went under 200. He went under 200 against the Bears. So yeah, I mean, the Bills have been playing all around well, so they haven't needed Josh Allen to kind of carry the team every game during this winning streak.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, who is number 7 in the AFC in terms of the playoffs? And do you trust the Chargers to actually win a playoff game? Next. So we all agree the Jaguars, we think, will win the 4 seed. Even Breech did reluctantly amid his blackout state. He's been blacked out repeatedly over the past 48 hours.
Brinson is talking about my electricity, not my alcohol intake.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
I think.
What is going on? That would explain the haircut if he just woke up from one of the recent blackouts.
Breech has been blacked out like 7 times in the last 24 hours. At least, probably, maybe more. Look at the number of outfits he's wearing.
That sounds right. It's cold when you don't have electricity.
Yeah, I mean, there's rolling blackouts. Ridiculous. Chargers defense been playing much better. Do we all think it's Miami for the 7 seed?
No, why? I mean, Tua's concussed again.
Yeah, Tua's not playing Sunday.
He just threw 18 interceptions in the fourth quarter. Of course, the reason is he was concussed, but I mean, I don't feel great about it.
You got Mike White and the Jets, McCorkle Jones and the Pats, Kenny Pickett and the Steelers.
No, it's not the Steelers. Their conference record is so terrible that they don't have a chance, even though they're 7-8.
I think it might be the Steelers.
Well, I just told you it's not going to be the Steelers.
Well, I'm
Listen
telling you,
to me.
I think it is the Steelers.
What do you think, Breech?
I mean,
why do you hate weighing in on things that are your job to weigh in on?
Well, I'm because I have to look at everyone's schedule and kind of play it out in my head.
But when the Steelers are the worst playoff, here, if you're watching on YouTube, Billy, just put it up.
I mean, it is unbelievable. Like the Dolphins getting in at. I don't think the Dolphins are going to win both their games. I don't think the Patriots are going to win both their games. I don't think the Jets are going to win both their games. I don't think the Titans are going to win both their games. The Steelers, I think, have the best chance of any team on this list of winning both games, which would get them to 9-8. But I don't think they're going to get in because their conference record is so bad.
Right.
I guess it's the Dolphins because all they really need to do is go 1-1 and they get to 9-8.
I think the Dolphins go 0-2.
Or if you think the Dolphins go 0-2, then you need to be looking long and hard to get to Pittsburgh, my friend.
No, I think I'm going to put my chips in on Mike White because that's going to seal Zach Wilson's fate, and I just want to see how that plays out.
Mike White with starting in Seattle, where AFC teams are 4-16 in their past 20 games.
So here's the scenario for the Steelers to get in.
They got to win both games and hope that.
No. I'm just going to tell you. Week 17, Patriots beat the Dolphins. The Seahawks beat the Jets. And the Steelers beat the Ravens. Not outrageous outcomes. Right?
Well, the Titans also have to lose to the Jaguars.
I don't think that matters. But the Titans play the Cowboys.
No, I'm talking week 18.
But that's just for the division. I don't think it matters.
But they're both 7-8. So if the Titans win out, it doesn't matter what the Steelers do.
The Steelers and Titans can both make the playoffs.
Right, Wilson. Brinson is saying that the Titans and Jacksonville can't both finish 9-8 because they play
Correct.
each other. So even if Jacksonville gets to 9-8, then Tennessee can't be 9-8.
Correct.
No,
so
right. Yeah,
only one of them can be 9-8, and whoever is 9-8 or 8-9
Wins the division title, right?
wins the division. Correct. Yeah, correct. So whoever wins week. That's why that's gonna be Sunday Night Football. Right. So anyway, back to the scenario is Dolphins lose at the Patriots, where they won't be favored without Tua. The
2.5-point underdog right now. That
Right.
flipped already.
The Jets lose at the Seahawks, where I don't think they'll be favored.
No, they won't be favored.
I think they are favored.
The Jets are favored.
Wow.
Yes.
Wins over
And
Wilson.
the Steelers as an underdog win at Baltimore. Now, if that happens, then in week 18,
Jets 2.5-point favorites over the Seahawks.
Why do you think the Steelers are going to beat the Ravens in Baltimore? They
I'm
lost
just
to
telling
Tyler
you-
Huntley and to Anthony Brown.
I'm just telling you what the scenario is for them to do it.
Steelers magic.
It's not that great. It's not insane to suggest the Steelers could win in Baltimore. Like it's the Steelers-Ravens matchup. Then,
Pretty crazy, but okay.
Then the Dolphins have to lose at home in week 18 to the Jets.
Hey, Ryan, real quick. Do you remember what the Steelers had to do last season to get in the playoffs? Who they have to beat?
I don't remember the math, but it was a lot of high-level calculus.
But who did the Steelers have to beat to
It was
complete?
the Ravens. It was the Ravens, wasn't it?
I don't even remember. Was it the Ravens?
It was the Ravens.
Yeah, but
They were a 3.5-point underdog. The
but
Steelers
again,
were.
a lot's changed in 12
All right,
months.
okay, but here's the week 8. Yeah, they've upgraded a quarterback from the fat corpse of Ben Roethlisberger to Kenny P.
Hey, glass houses, my man. Glass houses.
Ouch.
No, that's my quarterback. Don't let him call him a fat.
He's not then. Then in week 18, the Jets have to win at Miami, which I don't know if Tua can play again this year. The Steelers have to win at home against Cleveland, and the Patriots have to lose at Buffalo.
Plausible. All
I mean,
plausible.
this is really plausible, man.
I'm going with the Steelers. That's it. I
I think
I went through this whole schedule, and that's where I got the leaning. And I didn't want to believe it, but
What does the 538 tracker say? Because I think it's like 5%. I don't know if I got
it's like
Steven.
2%, I think.
Okay, well that sounds about right. You guys are all pumping up a 2% chance.
Yeah, I'm betting the Steelers.
So here, I'll put it to you
do the
this way:
Steelers parlay.
there's a 2% chance you survive jumping off the second story of your house. If you survive it, I will give you $1,000. So go up there and try it and see if you're as excited about that as you are about the Steelers making the playoffs.
Well, I mean, obviously, my parents' house isn't 2 stories, so I don't know.
It's 7.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Brinson going up to the roof, counting his money, comes down with one leg and no arms.
Kill me. No, actually, my parents it's a ranch house. So it's only 1 story. But if I jumped on the back, it would be 3 stories technically. I think because of it's a severe slope down to the pond. We actually thought we had a bird that was stuck frozen with his legs in the pond last night.
No, I know that because that was one of the reasons you were not able to do the podcast as quickly as
I was out there trying to break ice to help this blue heron out of the pond, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a blue collar guy.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
No, I mean, I don't. I'm not. I'm a blue collar farm man.
I mean, Wilson, let's just go through this in 20 seconds. You don't think the
Okay, go
Steelers
ahead.
have a good chance? You see the Dolphins right there at the Patriots against the Jets. What do
I
they
think
do?
they lose. I think they lose both those.
Okay.
All right, hold on.
Patriots.
All right, no, look. Yeah, hey, I'm not going to mention any numbers. You ask Wilson what he thinks. I'm going to plug it into the 538 thing. Okay. All right. Got the 2 losses for the Dolphins. What's
For the
next?
Dolphins. All right, the Patriots versus the Dolphins
They're
at
going
the
to
Bills.
split. They're going to split.
But they beat the Dolphins, lose to the Bills.
Right. If the Dolphins are losing
Okay.
0-2,
1-1.
All right. Hold
And
on.
then-
Yep. All right. Gotcha. All right. We're in on that. Yep.
Jets.
I had
Seahawks,
the Jets.
Dolphins.
Well, the Jets are winning in week 18 because I just said the Dolphins are losing and they face each other. I'm having them. They're going to make Eugene play like Gino. I think Mike White's going to ball out.
Okay. If they win, obviously, if they win both games, they're in.
Well, that means the Jets are Wilson's pick. We just walked through it.
Yeah.
We
I
did
said
it.
that. I said that 10 minutes ago. I said I'm going with the Jets because I want
You
Mike White to.
You just were like, I don't want the Steelers campaign.
No, I said
We
I
just want
wanted,
to hear the math behind it.
I wanted to see how the Zach Wilson thing plays out. I said that we can play the
Kenny
tape.
Pickett's going to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like Kenny Pickett's fine.
I'm not buying. This is the ultimate Geno Smith revenge game in Week 17 against the Jets at home.
Well,
Geno
either way.
Smith, real quick, is 2-0 in revenge games this year
Yeah.
against teams that were better. And the Seahawks won those games pretty handily. Obviously, against the Chargers, they won
Geno's taking out the Jets, man.
37-23, and then played the Giants and won that game by 2 touchdowns. The Seahawks beat the Giants by 2 touchdowns because Geno was all about revenge. He is going to beat the Jets by 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, then Matt Canada is going to go to the playoffs and he's going to get an extension and then we'll all be celebrating together. So I
God,
look
that
forward
would
to
be awesome.
So then the big winner will be the Bengals.
Yeah, and the
Bengals
Browns and the
hosting
Ravens.
the Steelers in the wild card round.
No, it would turn into the same thing as last year with the Steelers and the Chiefs in the wild card round.
An
Like,
ass whooping.
we like talk ourselves in like the Big Ben, like mercy, like
one talked
Big Ben's just
themselves
gonna
into
get
that.
something going in the playoffs, and he just gets absolutely
No,
obliterated.
no one thought that. I mean, you guys are
I
smoking
picked the Steelers to win.
smoking illegal stuff. Well, yeah, well,
All
clearly.
right, I'm gonna take the Steelers. I think the Jets is a fine call. The Dolphins, like, I don't see how you can play Tua in good faith. Is this his third time in the concussion protocol this year?
Second, because they messed up the first one.
Right, but I mean, he should have been in once. They played in the next week. He got concussed and went in the second. So, like,
jeez, man.
And to be clear, it wasn't even the next week. The original quote unquote concussion happened on a Sunday against the Bills in week 3. Then they threw him out there against the Bengals 4 days later on a Thursday night. And then that's when the scary concussion happened.
Yeah.
And
the NFL in all its reactionary glory started being like, well, if you get anything remotely considered like looking like a concussion, you're not coming back in the game.
By the way, quickly, I was just checking because you said you picked the Steelers to win that game last year, and I was just checking to see how poorly you did this week against the spread. And 7-9, and I went 7-9, and Breech went 6-10. Prisco went 13-3 against the spread this week. So shout out!
Wow, good shout out!
Yeah,
Shout out
that's
Pete.
great.
It's
it
great.
was an ugly week for me.
Yeah,
What'd you do?
6-10. He's not doing well. He's no longer when you know he's not flapping his gums about his picks on either straight up against the spread. You know, things aren't going well.
Indeed. I keep getting asked this, so I'm going to ask you guys. Does Jeff Saturday coach the Colts next year?
My honest reaction is I don't care. Like, if you want to roll his ass out there, roll him out there, and let's see what happens. He looked pretty frustrated watching whatever he doesn't know which quarterback's out there, whichever guy it is. The what was the Game of Thrones thing? The man with no face or whatever. That's what it feels like with the Colts quarterback. Just someone out there throwing interceptions. I don't even know which one it is. Like, at some point, why wouldn't you give Ellinger a chance?
Yeah, man. I just think you make Frank Reich while you're trying to fire him start Sam Ellinger, but with your season done, eliminated from the playoffs, you'd rather start Nick Foles and Sam Ellinger with Jeff Saturday. There's no snap count. They're worried. The one, they don't want Matt Ryan to get hurt and have to pay his contract for next year. Two, I think they're trying to give like Jeff Saturday the best chance to win without it's just, this is why I don't think anybody's going to want that job this offseason, man.
He should be fired just for having Nick Foles on a QB sneak on 4th and 1. Like, what are you doing? Late in the game, after the Colts forced that fumble and the
pretty bad.
I mean,
I thought the funniest image of not the funniest image of the Colts season, because there's like so many with Jeff Saturday and Jim Irsay, but it's like that arm extending out with Foles. It's like he's like, I've got it. Look,
don't look, Breech. Do you know what the Chargers did on 3rd down?
The Chargers or the Colts?
Chargers.
The Chargers did 50% plus.
8 of 18, so just under.
Okay, they were 8 of 16
the Colts did not convert a 3rd down. I know that.
The Colts were 0 and 8 at one point.
No, well, you're right, and they finished 0 and 10.
Guess what? There have only been 2 instances this year of a team going 0 for 10 or more on 3rd down. It was the Colts and the Colts.
Oh,
I love it. Was
take off the bra and be a man.
Please tell me Saturday was the coach both times.
I do not think so.
Jim Irsay was the coach the first time.
Yeah, Jim Irsay pulled a Ted Turner and
I think
coached
it
the
was
team.
Frank Reich's final game was
When he forced him to play Sam Ellinger. That's right.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back for Jim Irsay.
right.
All right, that'll do it for us. Monday Night Football's over.
Oh, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, there's Breech. If you remember the History Channel Aliens guy, same haircut as Breech. Breech is making the face. He's got the hair exact. That's it. Look at this. It is magical.
Somebody screenshot that. I'll do it. Nobody else will. Don't move, Breech.
So yeah, while Brinson's doing that, remember you can check out the With the First Pick podcast with me and Rick Spielman every Monday at 2 p.m. wherever you get your podcast. Also on the Pick 6 YouTube channel.
Subscribe. Turn on alerts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson.
Happy New Year. What? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Well, I mean, we'll see everybody.
See you on Thursday.
Oh, yeah. All right. Just in case. You never know.
Bye.